Sir, let me just ask you this, and this is something I've asked my previous guests. What is the end game here? How do you see this unfolding? Right? Because Mr. Sonsa said, relief can come at any time because he's fairly confident about the legal arguments of SMNI. Attorney Tolentino, however, was a little bit more pessimistic because his take on it was that this is all very political, and because it is political, it follows the political milestones, which would be in this case 2025 midterm elections, and possibly the worst scenario is up to 2028 when we have presidential elections. What's your analysis here? What's the end game?
Well, let me say first what I want to happen.
Okay.
I want the parties to smoke the peace pipe together.
Okay.
I want the president to call them together in a meeting and tell them to stop it.
Okay.
And the president should tell them, for my benefit and the benefit of the Filipino people, let's stop it.
Right.
Shake
Right.
hands. That's
Trabaho
it.
muna tayo.
Trabaho muna. Period. Wala na akong gusto marinig.
Right.
Ganun sana ang gusto ko marinig na mangyayari. However,
Okay.
the reality is, I don't think there is an end in sight.
Okay.
I think they really want to delete or exclude SMNI from the equation in
Okay.
2028.
Okay.
2028 will be the next presidential elections.
Okay.
They want SMNI out of that.
Out of the equation. Wow. So, I remember from the debates that, we were talking before that you had some experience with President Marcos. He was, I think, a candidate for the Senate back then, that you had done some favors for him in Iloilo or something like that. And then I remember you telling me that, I don't know if he remembers, but, at the debate, you approached him, you guys talked, and you were surprised to say
I called you over.
Yes. and you said that, he remembers, that you were quite, have you had any opportunity to talk to him and maybe express this views that, Mr. President,
No.
please step in? And
That was in 1995
Right.
to 1998. I forgot which year.
Right.
But someone asked me to help him around.
Yeah.
So I brought him to Barotac Nuevo.
Okay.
He was all alone.
Right.
Nobody knew him.
Right.
And I accompanied him, and he
Yeah.
shook the hands of people that were there, milling
Yeah.
around.
Right.
And he remembered that.
Right. And that's the point I'm trying to make. I mean, again, it stresses the point I was saying earlier, that you're not a political rival. In fact, that you at some point also helped them. But, how is it that, that is seemingly swept under the rug, forgotten, all because of maybe what some would say, ambitions for 2028?
Well, I think, Click, that at this point in time, people have their own agendas.
Okay.
They have their own plans.
Okay.
And they are trying to implement those plans for
Okay.
the furtherance of their own ambitions.
Right.
And they're way too far.
Right. Now, you said that you would prefer the president to step in, tell people to stop, let's talk about what's important for the country. Have you also had a chance to maybe talk to former President Duterte?
No.
And maybe ask him, Mr. President, why don't you be the one to be humble enough to go to Malacanang and say, Mr. President Marcos, let's talk about, the country first.
After the prayer rally in Davao.
Yeah.
I think that's out of the question now.
Okay.
I think someone will have to patch things up for both parties.
Okay.
The Dutertes and the Marcoses.
Okay.
I would point out to Senator Amy Marcos to bridge that gap. I don't know if she's willing, but I think she's in the right position to invite the parties together.
Right.
Maybe have a salo-salo.
Right.
Then after that, forget about everything. Let's do this for the Filipino people.
Have you had an opportunity to talk to Senator Amy?
No, I don't have.
I see.
I didn't have that opportunity.
Okay. What about on the side of SMNI? I mean, have you had a chance to talk to Pastor Kibuloy?
Well, only once when I went to Davao.
Okay. And is there any maybe indication that, okay, we'll be the ones to talk to the president and say, look, hindi nyo kami kalaban. Is there any discussion about something like that?
Sinabi niya yun.
Okay.
Na hindi siyang kalaban. In fact, I told him, you help this government.
Right. I remember they campaigned for the president. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how the cookie will crumble.
Okay.
I hope it crumbles in favor of the Filipino people.
Right. So on the political dimension here, as you said, and other guests have said, we're looking at 2028 until we see the end game here. Legally, what's your expectation? I mean, how fast will the NTC have to act on your petition before you go to the Court of Appeals? Is there a limit to when the Court of Appeals will act on Secretary Roque's petition? What are the timetables that you're looking out here?
Well, in the Supreme Court, we have Harry Roque's petition.
Right.
Okay. Now, we're waiting for the resolution of the MR with NTC.
Okay.
After that, we're going up to the Court of Appeals. But without the resolution, we will not go to the Court of Appeals. That's a requirement.
Okay.
That was the basis for the dismissal of our first petition for certiorari before the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we have to attend the hearings in the House of Representatives.
Right. This is the new petition.
That's correct. I mean, the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
Right.
That's where we are right now.
So, what would be the procedure there? I mean, educate us a bit here. So, there are now public hearings. How many hearings are they obligated to have? Does it go to the plenary? And as you said, they can't act alone. It goes to the Senate. What's the time frame that we're looking at here?
Well, actually, there's no time frame.
Okay. So this can drag on.
And yes, this could drag on.
Okay.
And so we are now. Last February 7, I think we are now on our 5th hearing before the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
Okay.
Is there an ending? No, I don't see any ending at this point in time.
Wow. Do you think there will be maybe encouragement from the Duterte camp to maybe pose some challenges to the Speaker? I mean, there is that opportunity, right? Because people will be going up for re-election in 2025 next year, right? What's the political play there from what you're hearing and what you can share with the public now?
We're looking at two things for this to end. First, there has to be a committee report filed by the committee with the House in plenary. If
Okay.
that is filed, then the hearings will end.
Okay.
Number two, if that is not filed, then we're looking at June 30.
Of this year?
No, next year.
Of
the
next year.
ending of the present Congress. The present Congress will end on June 30.
I see.
Okay, that's it. Now, maybe political meeting called by the president will do the trick.
Okay.
That's a third option.
Okay.
But
And
I'm not counting on it.
and what about you? Are there people talking to you about maybe coming out of retirement, leaving your lucrative practice behind and maybe going back into the political arena? And then who else might we be seeing from those friendly to SMNI or the Dutertes to maybe come back to politics and maybe duke it out in Congress? What have you been hearing?
Well, actually, there are quarters talking to me about a comeback.
Okay.
But I've seen Congress now. It's different from the Congress that I've been to.
I know when we were talking during the debate, I mean, you're saying, how difficult it is now financially, right, to compete, right?
That's correct.
Oh, then that's, I think if I remember correctly, it turned you off. That's why you said you might as well just practice law and
Well,
enjoy your life.
Well, I've never seen a speaker with iron control on the lower house.
Okay,
This speaker has it.
really?
Even the minority follows his directions.
Okay,
Even the left
okay.
follows the direction of the speaker now.
Well,
That's iron control.
They do say that politics makes strange bedfellows.
Oh, let's be honest. It's because of the pork barrel system.
Okay,
The pork barrel system is going underground, but it's bigger now.
wow. Well, that's sad to hear. Thank you very much for your time, Tony Rolex. But before we go, you want to leave our guests with final message, final thoughts?
Well, my friends, my countrymen, I thought that this day will never end, but I think it will end. I think the problems of SMNI will come to an end. We are hoping that the Supreme Court, when we file the petition there, will rule in our favor. That way, press freedom, freedom of information, and due process will prevail once again. If that can happen to SMNI, it can happen to everyone. I hope this is the last.